B. We're going to get the webinar started here. Welcome. So this webinar is 3 simple steps to amazing project management experiences. So just to let everybody know, I'll mention this a couple times, this webinar is going to be recorded, and we'll talk more about how you can get a copy of it, a digital copy and a copy of the recording later on. So without further ado, we'll get right into it. All right. So a little bit of housekeeping first. I'd like to talk a little bit about GoToWebinar for those who are not familiar with it. As I said, this webinar will be recorded. It'll be provided later. We're recording it using the GoToWebinar platform. It's also going to be a little bit interactive, so it's going to be important that you guys understand how to use the window panel, which you see there. It's going to be a little bit of a test for you guys. Make sure that you can use it. So the first thing I want to do is see if everyone can hear me. I noticed that there's quite a few people on the call. So if you could, and I'm going to point it out here, go to my pen on my new PC here and show you a couple features. There is a chat window. Actually, there's a hand window, which I want you guys to look at first. It's right here. It's raise your hand. I would like for you guys to click on that if you can hear me okay. And then I'll put the hands down in just a moment. So for those who can hear me, please go ahead and click that button to raise your hand. All right. Looks like we're good. Looks like we're getting some good participation here. Awesome. Also, just to let you know, your speakers and microphone, your speakers are obviously open, but your microphone has been muted. That's because we have a large number of registrants, so it'll just be myself and the other presenters talking to today. But there is a chat window also at the bottom down here that you can use there's a questions log and a chat window, so you can use those to communicate with us during the presentation. All right, moving forward now. All right, so the agenda today, we're going to do some introductions about who the presenters are, just a little bit about us. More importantly, we're going to get to the reason you're here, talk about some of the common challenges with project management, and specifically deploying project management information systems and management systems, and talking a little bit about how you make those an amazing experience. And that sometimes some people say it's an oxymoron, that project management and amazing experience are mutually exclusive, but we beg to differ. We've actually had a lot of experience helping people realize some really good experiences with project management solutions. We'll then talk a little bit more about the 3 steps to achieving success in doing so. We'll have a QA and wrap up and follow up on how you get the materials after this, how we can stay in touch, and all that kind of good stuff. So with that, we've got to copyright the normal legal publication stuff. Moving along. Who's the presenter? So the guy on the far left, that's me, Mike Taylor. President, founder of Innovative E, been doing project management solutions for a very long time, going all the way back to the days working with NASA KSC, doing project management, software development. It's been a while since I've done development, but been a practitioner for many, many years. So we've got Owen Callan. He's our managing partner. He does a lot of business development training for us. He's got tons of project management experience, done very large-scale project and program implementations in tens of millions of dollars. Matt Freilich, who is our Vice President for Project Portfolio Management and Business Intelligence. He architects a lot of our solutions and a lot of our products that we're building on top of some of the platforms out there that we'll talk more about for distribution to customers. And then on the far right with no picture is Pamela Melville. She is today's moderator. And if you need, you can reach out to her. If for some reason you can't get a hold of her through the panels here, chat window or anything, we included her email address there that you could email her directly, and she is monitoring the call and her email now. All right, let's get to it. All right, so I said that there was going to be interaction, and so for the first thing I'm going to do, everybody pay attention, I'm going to need you guys to respond to a poll. So we're going to talk about, before we get into talking about what a great project management experience is, we'd like to hear back from you. So in the context of a project management information system, or PMIS as it's often known and defined by the Project Management Institute and other folks. What makes an amazing project management experience? So I've got some answers that we've come up with, and then of course we have another category, as any good multiple choice would have. So I'm going to open the poll here in just a second, but I'll let you guys look at those for a second, and then I'm going to go over here and open the first poll, and you should see what is an amazing project management experience. So with that, did the poll open? Launch, here we go. I'm going to launch the poll. There we go. Now there it is. All right, so again, in the context of a project management information system, what makes a great project management, an amazing project management experience? Is it that it makes project work easier, provides value for all stakeholders, and of course, you know, there's probably multiple answers, but we're asking you to choose just one. What's the top answer? Good user experience, integrates with other office tools with collaboration, or other. So what we're going to do is we're going to leave this poll open for a couple minutes, or for about another minute, and so please get your answers in, and then as we do, we will revisit this after we go through a few more slides and go through the poll results. So it looks like we're getting some pretty good participation. That's awesome. Seeing a lot of folks answer the questions. So again, if you haven't answered them already, what makes a great project management experience in the context of a project management system? All right, it looks like I have almost 90% participation. That's awesome. Good job, guys. So I'm going to, now we have over 90%. Give it just 1 minute longer. Going. If you haven't made your choice, now's the time to do it. All right, we're going to close that poll and move on with the presentation. Show you guys some fun stuff. Good job. 89% voted. That's awesome. Moving along. We'll come back and go through the poll results in a few minutes. So a quick introduction about Innovative E for those who don't know us. We are a Microsoft Premier partner. We hold multiple certifications. We have several silver, but we have gold and content and collaboration, which is really all around, for those who are familiar with the SharePoint project space. We do a lot of software development as well, so we have some certifications in that. The one that we probably promote the most is our gold in project and portfolio management, which is really why most of you are here today. I know that a lot of you are PMPs and interested in the PDU, which we will get to, but you have to stay to the end to get your PDU. So you have to bear with us and participate a little bit more. We're not actually tracking who participates, by the way, just who stays to the end. So obviously, you know, in the context of where we come from, you know, the project platform, Microsoft Project is what we primarily use, but there's a lot of tools out there that are good tools. So the 3 steps when we get to them are more holistic and not necessarily tool-based, although we will show you some demos today that are based on the Microsoft platform and the Microsoft stack and some third-party pieces such as Project Plus, PS Plus. So PS Plus is actually an accelerator that was built. The way the Microsoft ecosystem works is they build fantastic product and platforms, and then partners, they have the world's largest ecosystem of partners. So Corporate Project Solutions out of the UK built a very nice suite, and you'll see a little bit more of it today, called PS Plus, and it's a great project management accelerator. So when we talk a little bit about that, you'll see how that goes. We are one of their preferred partners, and we represent PS Plus here in the U.S. And of course, we are affiliated very closely with the Project Management Institute, and we are a registered education provider and have held that credential for many years, which is what enables us to provide those of you who are PMPs with a PDU today. So the reality of project management. Interestingly enough, there are a lot of different ways people do project management, as many of you are aware. There's all kinds of different solutions that are put in place, many different ways that people approach it, but at the end of the day, you still oftentimes end up with a lot of ad hoc collaboration and processes. What we have in there are some of the Microsoft tools that you do it, but some of the biggest tools that are still used are Outlook, SharePoint, OneDrive, Dropbox, pen and paper. So there's all kinds of different things that are used. The output of that oftentimes is very unstructured reporting, inconsistent reporting, and a lot of time and effort spent putting things together to try to understand really where the status of projects are, where issues are. We see that quite a bit, and people use all the different tools out there. There's a lot of weekly reports that go out in PowerPoint, right, that are really an aggregation of things from Microsoft project plans, from spreadsheets, all kinds of different things. And that is really in trying to get this executive visibility piece worked on and try to give the decision makers, the decision support systems they need to not be over budget, and to really make sure that you're addressing the project and the results of what kind of project you're trying to do, whether it's a return on investment, you're trying to get a better system put in place, whatever it is, the metrics of project management. Budget could be one piece of it. It can also be schedule. Many times schedule or resource management are more important than budget management. But so at the end of the day, this is kind of the reality that we see in project management in the marketplace, and I think a lot of people would probably concur with that. So moving along to a slide that we have to put in there because it's just it's so fundamental, but at the same time still need to reiterate that any automation that is put in place is really a balance of people, process, and technology. There are no technologies that will solve all the people and process issues. So when we talk about the 3 steps, which we'll get to in a minute, understand that what we're really trying to do is bring all 3 of those along at the same time. So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about the results of the poll. So in terms of the poll results, we had 18% that said make project work easier is important. We had 64%, wow, that said bring value to all stakeholders. That's a very interesting statistic there. We had 8% that said a good user experience. We had 8% that said it integrates with collaboration and other tools, and only 3% said other. So I feel pretty good about that. We only missed 3%. I know some of those are some pretty broad categories, but if anyone would like to post into the chat window what they meant by other, feel free to do so, and Pamela will capture that, and we can revisit that with you guys later. So thanks for participating in that poll. We've got another one for you later, so stay tuned, and we'll save these changes to the PowerPoint as well so that you'll see the results. So what are the 3 steps to amazing project management experiences? So we know what some of the things are that you guys are after. Value is a big piece of it, obviously the 64%. So what we'd like to talk about is in moving the people, process, and technology forward, one of the things that we see is starting quickly is huge. Past that, achieving winnable wins. We'll talk more about what a winnable win is versus just a win. And then sustaining adoption and protecting the investment over time. So what do we mean by start quickly, and why is it important? Well, limited budget. And if there's anyone out there that has an unlimited budget, we would love to talk to you guys right after this call, because we've never found a client in all the years we've been doing work that has unlimited budget. Owen did say he had one client that was involved with lottery or something that had a fairly substantial upside budget, but
it was, sorry to interrupt, Mike, it was state governments, the Department of the Lottery for the state of Florida. They had an unlimited budget because they generate revenue.
Well, there you have it. So you have, maybe there are folks that do have unlimited budgets, but for the vast majority of folks we've worked with, we find that there's very limited budgets. And in fact, it's even more interesting than that. We find that a lot of project management solutions, the more folks are having to do project management, which there's a lot of statistics around the fact that in general, a lot of processes have been automated around accounting, inventory tracking, contract management, all those kinds of things, even HR management, things like that. Project management is one of the areas, though, that continues to grow as a percentage of information worker workload. It's actually about 60% or 70% of the workload that information workers have to do. Projects, of course, you project managers know, being defined as something that has a definite begin, a definite end, and some type of scope or some type of outcome that you're trying to do, and of course some kind of budget you're trying to do it with. So what we're finding, though, is more and more of these types of solutions are being driven at the work group and department level. It doesn't mean that enterprises aren't still adopting project management solutions, but we're finding more and more they're being done at the work group level. And they typically have even more limited budgets. They need to get started with something out of, we'll call it discretionary funding. They find a few dollars here to say, let's try something out. So you have a very limited budget to get something started with. And that ties into the third point there, and that is if you have a limited budget, you also are probably going to have limited time to get something started and gain some traction out of it. So if you go to deploy any kind of project management, project collaboration solution, unless it's a very large, well-funded initiative, you probably want to work on ways to get it started quickly, not have a lot of the traditional analysis paralysis, months of mapping and gapping and all that kind of stuff. You need to get something up and running, and probably what we're finding now is, it used to be 6 months to get up a project management system. Now we have people saying they want it in days or weeks. So starting quickly is very key.
Mike, if I could just jump in for a second, I wanted to share the other comments that we got a moment ago because it ties into what you were just talking about. It says, the other was improves the likelihood of project success by saving cost or schedule, or improves the likelihood of delivering required capabilities. So again, it was saving cost or improves delivering on the required capabilities was the other a moment ago.
Okay, that's a very good one, and thanks for that input. So again, not trying to be too prescriptive about technology, but this is our technology suite, and this is what we do. So from a getting started quickly perspective, there are a lot of solutions out there that do project management, project collaboration. There's a lot of born in the cloud type solutions that if you've done any research, you'll see that are out there. We really like the project solution, what Microsoft calls Project PPM, Project Portfolio Management, and what they've done with their cloud offering. Microsoft's been around, of course, in the project management space for about 20 years since their first version of Microsoft Project in the mid to late 80s, and have evolved it ever since. And their cloud offering is actually a pretty good solution for. Actually, we think it's the best solution out there as a platform, and it does a lot of amazing things. And I mean, for the dollars per month per user, and there's different licensing models there, whether you're a project manager or just a team member, and the team member pricing is very inexpensive. Even the project manager is very cost competitive for a cloud offering because you can get going almost instantaneously. So we find it's a fantastic platform to build solutions on. So one of the key accelerators that we found out there, as we mentioned, is a product called PS Plus, and it does a lot of very interesting things to make project managers and team members' life easier in terms of navigation and other types of productivity types of things that it does. It also does some cool things with some add-in apps for financial management, schedule management, things like that. So that's actually what we will show you as a kind of an accelerator for adoption and getting started quickly here in just a moment. I think that's actually coming up about right now. So with that, I'm actually going to turn it over to another colleague who you haven't heard from yet, which is Matt Freilich. Matt, are you ready to get started with the demo?
I am, thank you. I'm going to take the screen from you and just as I move it over here.
Awesome.
All right, so everyone should be seeing my screen, which is good. So as Mike was talking about PS Plus and what can it do for you and how does it work with the Microsoft PPM stack. So what you're looking at now is Microsoft PPM with PS Plus embedded onto it. It will look very similar, and there's a lot to it. There's a lot of features in both Microsoft PPM and PS Plus. I'm not going to hit them all today, but I am happy to have any further detailed conversations. Just please reach out to us and we will go through them in a much more detailed fashion. So since we're all talking about adoption and winnable wins and what gets you started quickly and get you going and help you achieve value out of the system, I'm going to hit three main things that help a lot of users and PMs gain adoption very quickly. So one of the things we're going to look at is the PS Plus navigation or Navigator app, and as you can see down here in my where my mouse is highlighting, I have a lot of little bits of information. I have my favorite projects. These are very important to me. These are the ones I'm watching personally. It's not, and if I expand out my active projects, it's not all of my projects, but these are the ones that I care the most about, the most priority to me. But I also can pull up and expand out and see all the other projects that are going on that I have access to. I may add one of these or may not. So, but you also see a lot of colors and symbols here. That means something, and it should be, and it's very quick to pick this up, but you have a color chart here and an icon chart to explain exactly what those things mean in a very quick fashion. So what you should be able to see here is I have projects that are out of date, and I have projects that are started, and then I have a couple that are checked out. So you can kind of quickly see what's going on. But the thing doesn't, the Navigator app doesn't stop there. I need to get to my stuff very quickly. So when I click on it, very intuitive, I can see a whole bunch of information, including what the status is, how much % complete it is, how many risks, how many issues, all the little things on here. If I can add risks, I can add issues, I can get to all the various components of the system quickly within one click. And it doesn't take me away from this page. It opens up new tabs, as you can see up there. So for right now, what I want to do is I want to look at the project details. So this is going to open up a new tab right there for me in my screen. And I normally would have had that preloaded, but the reason I wanted to do it live is so that everyone can kind of see how easy it is to go. So what we're going to look at is, this is going to lead us right into the second adoption piece, and that is, how do I deal with cost and financial management within my project? Well, the Financial Manager app of PS Plus has a lot of great things to help you do that. It's completely configurable. As you can see across the top here, I have a whole bunch of different cost types. The cost types vary in terms of their functionality. They can either be manually entered, like a spreadsheet. They can be pulled from the project schedule. They can be calculated, so you can calculate, say, ROI or remaining budget based off of what you've typed in, what you've spent, actual costs, everything like that. So you can kind of get all this information very quickly and simply into the system. And you can see I have my total for 2016, my total for years beyond 16, and my grand total. I can change my year, so I can have a multi-year project. This supports multi-currency. So and it also shows me I can graph out this information very quickly. So you see how quickly that loaded up. I can see, okay, so here's what's going on with my project. I have my OpEx, my CapEx budget, and my total budget, so I can kind of see what's going on. And I can also add other cost types to it to have a different overlay as well. Additionally, I can come over to my project expenses. As you can see, I have in here, I have my CapEx. I can expand it out, and I can actually see the details of the invoices that I'm putting in here. It adds to what Project Professional and Project Online are already doing for you. So while I'm here, I need to look at my project highlight report. So again, this is one of those things that helps you get rid of the need to build status reports by yourself every other week or every 2 weeks or what have you. So I have the ability to pull the data directly from my project, see it on the screen, look at it and go, okay, this looks about right. If I need to look at any of these issues, okay, I notice this issue doesn't have a mitigation strategy or this risk, I can click on it. It will take me to the risk. I can get that modified and come back here. I can look at all my indicators. Okay, all this looks right. I'm happy with this. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to publish my report. So it makes it complete. So where does it go? Well, we can come over to my other tab up here, which again I could have gotten to from my Navigator. I want to look at my highlight reports. So it also, not only does it give you what your current is, but it tells you exactly, it publishes past versions, so you can say, oh, back on July 29th, what was I thinking with that? Let me display that one. I want to take a look at what's going on with that.
Yeah, not only does it publish it, it does it in one click, which this is one of the, it's a a utility feature, productivity feature, but it's one of the first things that drew me to PS Plus. It makes it super easy, having managed a lot of projects, to be able to click and basically do your project report right there in one click. It's awesome.
Exactly. And this also now shows me my trend, so I can see over time that I've had issues and risks go from green to yellow. Well, that's something maybe to be concerned with. I have the total of completed milestones coming up in the future. Number of risks have increased over time, so my project is getting riskier just by looking at this. And on top of it, from a home page perspective for the project site, this is where your other component of adoption comes in, because it gets you a whole bunch of data that is available to you as a PM and your team members to know what's going on with the project right at their fingertips. So you can see all the indicators right there. You can get to the highlighted issues, highlighted risks, the things that show up on your report. You can get to all this information, and everybody who's on the project team has access to this. So it's not, this is out of the box, shows up for you.
Right.
Again, if there's any other questions about this, we're happy to do into a much detailed dive demonstration for you. Thank you.
All right. That's great, Matt. Thank you very much. All right. We're going to switch back over to my screen. I'm going to do this a couple times. So moving on past this is the second. All right, everybody wake up who's not paying attention. It's time for you to participate again. Hopefully you work, because Matt's a much better presenter and shows more interesting things than me. But since we have your attention, the second question we want to do, we're going to open the poll here in a second, is for, again, for in the context of a project management information system, have you been part of an implementation? Very interested to get the feedback on how it went if you had. A lot of our customers have. Some people haven't. So I'm going to open this poll now and launch it, and it should be popping up on your screen. There it is. So have you been part of an implementation? And if so, how did it go? It went perfectly? Yes, it's limping along. Yes, it failed miserably. No, but we need to do so, or no, and just not interested in going down that path.
So, Mike, as people are filling out that poll, I noticed that it failed miserably is showing up in 2 choices. It's meant to be just that third choice for failed miserably. So, yes, it went perfectly as choice 1. Yes, it's limping along as choice 2. Yes, it failed miserably as choice 3.
Thanks for catching that. Yeah, it's right on my slide, but apparently when we loaded the poll, we had a typo there. So, there you go. Yeah, give everybody a second to adjust their answers there. So we have, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, Mike. While you're letting people adjust their answers, I am seeing a couple of responses, and I know that you'll share the results later, but a couple of responses saying no and never going to happen. I'm just curious what might be the reason why in your environment's never going to happen you think is the case. So if you could put that in the question pane, I would appreciate that myself. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Good catch there. So still getting a little bit of voting here. So again, number 3 option should be it failed miserably. Number 2 is it's limping along. All the others are correct. So give everybody another second here. Looks like we've got yeah, still a couple more votes coming in, so that's awesome. About 74, 75% have voted. So a couple other people went out to grab some coffee. All right. I'm going to go ahead and close poll so we can move along. We've got another demo and some more stuff to talk about here. Thank you very much for participating. And moving along to the second of the 3 key things to amazing project management experiences. Number 1, again, was to start fast. Number 2 is to achieve winnable wins. And why do we say winnable wins? Well, let's talk about what a winnable win is first, and it relates to that first piece there of reducing risk. A winnable win is something that you can obviously win. You have a high likelihood of getting it done. What we see people do a lot of times when they're doing a project management solution is they'll come in and they'll list their priorities, and they'll put them in kind of totem pole fashion, right? They'll put the top priority on the top of the list, and then the next, then further down. So maybe schedule management is their top issue that they want to work, so they'll put that at the top. Or maybe then resource management or budget management, financial management. Maybe it's executive dashboarding. They'll create this totem pole, and then that becomes the doctrine that they're going to try to implement this PMIS with. The problem with that approach, and without stopping to look at each of those things, is that you may be setting yourself up for some problems if the things on the top of that list aren't really winnable because they have a high degree of risk. So what makes a high degree of risk? Well, if it's very complicated and you haven't done it before, if it's going to be very expensive to do, if it's going to take a long time to do, these are the kinds of things that can add to. So there are certain dimensions of project management. We can talk for anyone who wants to talk about it later, which are more complicated to do because of the adoption strategies and some of the technical complexities behind it than other dimensions. And it may not seem intuitive, but I'll just throw one of them out there that for those who have tried this before and have failed miserably, one of the dimensions that's very hard to do is very detailed resource management. And the reason is because when you're talking resource management, oftentimes you're talking of tying into a lot of other processes, and you're touching a lot of people. So you're talking about having all your team members do time reporting or time sheeting, and if they're doing software development or other types of product development or something, they may already have ways that they're tracking their work, and they have multiple ways to track their work. So that is one when people, just as by way of example, if they bring up to us and say, we want to do that first, we'll say, okay, that's fine, we can go after that, but in terms of winnable wins, that may not be as winnable as something that may be further down your list. So you might want to look at that when you go to build these types of things, because less risk also increases your chance of success. And then, of course, number 3 there is just to see if anybody's still paying attention, is get a promotion, because obviously if you build great systems in it and they save the company a lot of money or add a lot of value, then you're putting yourself in a good position and your team. So that is why we talk about achieve winnable wins. So if there's any questions about that, again, feel free to reach out. The third pillar that we talk about, in addition to starting quickly and building winnable wins, is sustained adoption. One of the worst things you can do is you can put a system in place with the idea that it's static. These systems are part of the the structure of your organization and what you'll be doing, and you're automating, again, people, process, and technologies, and those things change over time. So not only do you need to think about that, we really talk about it in 2 dimensions when we talk about growth. There's what we call expansion, which is really taking whatever people, process, and technology you put in place and adding more people to it, more teams, more capacity in terms of usage of the system. And then there's enhancement, which means you're going to actually change the way the system works, and you'll find ways that you want it to work better for you over time. So you need to make sure that you plan for, when you build these things, an ongoing phase that will allow you to continue to protect that investment and sustain adoption. Because again, if you don't have adoption, the system's not going to work over time. So this is something that even if you have a small budget to start with, you need to think about putting a little bit of budget aside for building that the roadmap for the things that you want to tackle. And one of the other pieces of advice we'll give you is, when you build that roadmap, is to plan not for what you know, but also plan for some unknown. So if you see that you've got 10 items you want to do in the next year to expand and enhance your system, maybe you want to add a bunch of users to it, maybe you want to add, you're doing schedule management and you also want to get into budget management, you're going to do different dimensions of project management, put those things on your roadmap and then account for the fact that there's things you're not going to know. There could be things that come at you, from something that management says, hey, we have to make this change to the system for whatever reason. Maybe it's a it's a compliance change, or it's a something else. So you have to plan for the unknown as well. Then you have to provide the structure for team success. That means you have to put the right kind of people internally and sometimes externally in place to provide the kind of consultative support that you need for a project management information system. So these need to be folks who understand the technology and understand project management. And then the last piece there is, and this is really important, if you're going to build these, especially if you're starting at a department or work group type level and you get some of this incremental funding to go after it, you've got to catalog and promote the wins perpetually. You've got to continue to promote that the system is adding value, and therefore you're going to get the continued investment to sustain the adoption and enhance it over time. And this is probably one of the more key things to do. We've seen people build very successful systems and then not plan for the future and prep their management for, hey, yeah, we invested X number of dollars into this year, we need to do it again next year and the year after. So long as you're getting value out of it, you're going to need to be thinking about how you're going to continue to invest in growing the system.
Hey, Mike, I'm going to
Yes,
jump
sir.
in just a moment to provide the feedback that we got for people who said that the PMO or the PMIS is never going to happen, because
Right.
it ties in a little bit with what you were just mentioning. Excuse me. No budget for additional licensing. We're doing it all manually. So until you have a strategy or know what you're going to be doing for the future, that's probably a condition that's going to continue for some time. And the other one was never going to happen because not enough funding because the projects are too light. So those were the reasons why it's never going to happen.
Right. That second one, maybe it may be that there really just isn't enough value there to invest in it, and that makes sense. And then, whatever type of ad hoc system you put in place may be good enough. But the first one you mentioned in terms of not getting enough funding goes back to this point here of promoting the wins, and if you're cataloging the value that you're getting out of the system, then it should be fairly self-evident why you need to continue to invest in it in the future. So good, that's good stuff. Thank you. So let's get to the results of how we're doing on time. We've got about 20 minutes left, so I think we're doing pretty good. Have you been part of an implementation, and how did it go? So let's see here. So this is interesting. So we've got 22% said it went perfectly. That's awesome. That's a little higher than I would have thought. 51% said yes, but it's limping along. Well, we had 0% on miserable, so we don't know about that because we actually had a typo there. So it could be that 51 comprises both of those. No, but we need to do one is 16%, and then never going to happen was actually jumped from 3 when we originally saw it to 11%. So that's pretty interesting stuff. That's a question mark there. Dot my question mark. Cool. All right, moving along here. So those are the three main steps. What we'd like to do now is tell you a little bit more about the detail behind some of this. So one of the things that we find is really key is this concept of value generation. And since value generation was actually, I think, #1, it's 64% on the first poll, this is probably well timed to get into what does value generation mean in the context of the way we've seen it. So we see that there's very often, almost always, competing priorities to build a project management information system. You have these top-down considerations that are really being driven by your executives. They need dashboards, reporting, they need decision support systems. More and more of these folks are wanting systems that are not PowerPoint or PDF based. Somebody brings it to them once a week. They're wanting access to these systems to get them real time. I mean, we all have access to our bank accounts online and everything else that we do online. These folks are no different, right? They want to be able to get in and get their information and get it quickly and be able to drill down on the detail. So if something's oftentimes the things that are green, like the 22% that said it went perfectly, if I'm an executive, I'm looking at that and tracking that project. I'm not going to go click on that dashboard where that project's going well. But the one that says it's it's limping along or failed miserably, it's yellow or red, and the red, amber, green report, I'm going to be clicking in and wanting to drill in on that. And we're finding more and more the self-service approach that's the webification of the world is going on as well. So one of the key things that these folks are looking for, though, is project transparency, right? They're really looking to be able to drill in on this and at a high level get this kind of transparency. The counter to that oftentimes is the adoption strategy. So we talked about that there's things that you can do when you build a project management system in place and it makes it harder to use. So we've heard people say, look, managing this system and getting my time in or doing the things that I have to do, that's not my job. My job is doing this other thing, whatever it is, right? So adoption is an absolutely critical component of it. And the reason we say value equals transparency times adoption is because in a simple mathematical equation, if you have great transparency, you're getting great dashboards and your executives are all excited about it, but your people over here don't know how to use it, or they find that it's too complicated and complex for them to use and they quit using it. If adoption goes to 0, then value goes to 0. It doesn't matter what transparency is at. Transparency can be at 10, right? 10 times 0 is 0. So it's that balance of the two that becomes absolutely critical to do. And this is the way we approach building any solution or implementing any solution for folks. So when you talk about how you're going to go forward with implementing your solutions or enhancing your solutions for the, 78% who don't have one that's working perfectly for them, this is a key consideration that you need to take into effect. And we'll show a little bit more about that in just a minute. So talking about the executive perspective, it's not just about the reporting. Executives are also looking at obviously being able to do portfolio analysis, investment management, intake, demand management. They want to understand financial reporting, which we showed a little bit about, and they want to be able to understand the governance model around all of that. One of the things Matt didn't show, that's a really cool thing that PS Plus does as well, is there's actually an assurance assurance app that shows a report that if your project managers aren't publishing their plans, or it's been a long time, or there's different things, issues aren't being updated, risks aren't being updated, then there's a red, amber, green report that shows all that. So being able to have a good governance model around things is important as well. So the next piece we want to talk about is actually demoing a little bit about some ways we've taken this value equals transparency times adoption approach, and the 3 steps that we follow that we've already talked about, starting quickly, winnable wins, and sustaining adoptions. We've taken that, and in certain industries, when we work in multiple industries, we've helped these folks accomplish some really good things. And Matt's going to show a very quick demo around how we do that, both from an executive perspective of getting some of that transparency they need, and then ease of use and adoption perspective. So with that, are you prepared, Matt?
I am. Let me change the presenter here and take control.
Awesome.
So everyone should be seeing my screen now. So I'm going to start with the that top-down approach and look at this executive dashboard. So what we're looking at here is a really comprehensive dashboard of all projects across the portfolios or programs or departments, however we want to cut up the data. But at the end of the day, it's still cutting up the data into groupings, so it's easily digestible. This particular dashboard we have used in our industry solutions when we work with the federal government. It is modeled after the IT Gov dashboard. And what it's showing us here is aggregated information around the system. So we have risks and issues, we have costs and schedule. So if by hovering over all these things, I can see how many projects are in these buckets, right? And I can see the trend of each one of the minor or individual indicators over time and how it's gone up or gone down or vice versa, and then the overall is my aggregation of the 3 of them. And then down here you can see by portfolio, you can see the different portfolios within the system. We can have the total cost projects. This is all we can very customizable. We can go onto the departments and see the same thing. Now all these things is very interactable, allows executives to get to the data that they care about sooner. So they can click on the red overall health, it'll filter down to the projects that are in that state at the moment. Vice versa, they may want to look at the yellow because those are the ones teetering on the edge. And all this stuff is calculated and taken care of. And from there they can even get down to the project status reports and really get into the really low-level weeds. But at the same time they can stay out of it, get to their stuff very quickly. So from a top-down perspective, that's what you have here, from a very visible, transparent component from all your projects. So looking back down to your adoption, one of our solutions we've done dealing with heavy manufacturing. As everyone may or may not know, dealing with heavy manufacturing, they have to maintain those machines. They are usually running 24/7, so they turn them off for a couple of days or a week or a month, and they have to maintain them, do maintenance, so they can keep running without failing or being a safety hazard. So one of the ways we've done that is adding a way for people to get data into the system simply and easily. Now, as everybody understands, when you have a big manufacturing plant like that, you have thousands of people working. Not everybody is going to be interacting in the system or has time to. So what we're talking about here is trying to make it a way that we can update the job or the task specifically as opposed to the assignment. So we can actually still deal with bringing up we could still deal with bringing up more information to the supervisors, the ones who are closest to those folks, and bringing that to the table so that they can get the updates in while everyone else is still working, while still having the man loading and man hours associated to the jobs in place. So I'm looking at my overdue tasks. I can easily come up here and say, this is when it's due. I can click on now. I can get that. That's when it started exactly. I can click on my save here, and this is going to show up green. Now when I submit the updates, it will actually update the system to allow us to get into the schedule, update my dashboards, and everything kind of flows upwards. Real simple, real easy, and simple to use.
So that looks like a much simpler way to do the updates than would have to do out of the box, right?
Right, because normally out of the box, if I had a job that had 4 people on it, I would end up with four different assignments. This way I'm just updating 1. I don't have to update all 4, I just update the 1, but I can still keep 4 resources on that task.
Awesome. That looks great, Matt.
Thank you. I think that's what I was going to show right now.
Great. Thank you very much. So back to me, and I think we're actually getting close to wrapping it up and getting to some questions and finding out what else we have here. So I think with the, make sure I've got my screen going here. So the next one up is today's presentation has been recorded, and we'll continue to record it. The PDU information will be provided by email. The slide deck will be distributed by email, and it'll also be on the innovative.com website. Like I said, feel free to reach out to us. We're also going to make discounts available for any of the attendees for 30 days for any of the product professional services, things like that, if there's anyone who's interested in getting something rolling. As we said, we can get things going very quickly these days but now that with the cloud solutions. So it's awesome. With that, I wanted to find out, Owen, Pamela, Matt, I don't know, Matt, you've been demoing, so you probably haven't been looking at it, but have we been getting any questions that we need to address?
The only contribution so far in the questions panel has been the few times that we've asked people to specify off of what they meant by either other or never going to happen. So if people want to get their questions answered, now would be a good time to ask those.
Yeah, awesome. And yes, I'm looking to make sure it's nothing. No, there's nothing in the chat window. So yeah, in the questions panel on the right, if you guys have any questions, feel free to enter it in there. And let me advance this slide to the contact information, or Innovative E. Let's see, do we have any questions? Anybody? Still got about 50 people still around, so we're here for you guys. If you want to, we'll stay on for the next couple minutes if you guys have any questions you want answered. Could you go over the high level of the 3 steps to project? Just a summary. Okay, sure. The high level, actually what I will do is I will skip back to that slide. Let's go back to the main slide that has those 3 on it. Okay, so really it's start quickly. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm one slide off. Start quickly so that you can show results, achieve winnable wins, make sure that you're focusing on things that you actually can do that are within the the scope that you have, both technical capability-wise, organizationally, what they can do, and obviously budget and time-wise, and then sustained adoption. Make sure you plan for, after you implement a system, for giving the support to the users of the system that they need, both from a technical piece, but also from a consulting piece, and or at a support type perspective. So looks like we're getting some other questions. Awesome.
Yeah, so Jeffrey Cass has asked, what are the best techniques for rolling out a new system with an older one?
That is a great question. We might have to talk about that one a little bit more. There's oftentimes what you find is you have to figure out what the older system was and the newer system. You have to map and gap and say, do you want to take that data over, or do you want to do you know, sometimes it actually is more efficient to do what they call a rip and replace, to take it out and then rebuild. So you really look at what's the most efficient way to do it, and what are your goals out of it. So we can talk more about that, Jeffrey, if you want to talk about it later.
All right, and I'm going to combine a couple of questions into one here because there was a question about how much did you show is out of the box, and then there's another question that says, I assume the main schedule still needs to be created in Microsoft Project. Is this correct?
Yeah, so you just answered that one. The same schedule, it has to be created with Microsoft Project. Well, or it could be done with PWA through the Project web app, which is possible with Project Online now. But how much is out of the box? So I would say all of the underpinning of it is all out of the box. It's Project Online. The PS Plus is a lot of what Matt was showing is layered on top, and they're a premier partner for Microsoft as well. So it's all built to work lockstep. But you know, it really does help with probably some of the frustrations you've seen, and make sure that you know, it's more easy to use.
To the point, Mike, to that point of out of the boxness, a lot of in that first demo I showed, all of that stuff is the out of the box PS Plus. It's just purchased, installed, off you're going, and down that happy path. So that is not a whole lot of customization at all. It's set up for you. So it is PS Plus out of the box. It's just not necessarily Microsoft PPM out of the box.
Yeah, it just lays on the PPM. Hopefully that
excuse me. And then the last question that's it hasn't been addressed just yet is if there could be any demo on the timesheet management or visibility.
Yeah, David, absolutely. We would have to set that up separately, though. We're obviously going to run out of time here. We're down to just about 5 minutes, so happy to do that. So maybe, Owen, you can take a note to follow up with David on that. That'd be awesome.
We'll do, yes. Oh, there's another one that just came in. What are the biggest challenges to overcome after implementing a project management solution?
That's a great question, Kevin. The sustainability of it, I think, is probably one of the biggest challenges, and a lot of it has to do with how it was implemented. So if they haven't, you know, when we talk about sustained adoption, obviously that means you have to have the right kind of structure in place to support folks. So first of all, even if you did a great job of, you know, starting quickly, putting winnable wins, you know, getting some good wins, and everybody's happy with the solution, if you don't put some structure in place, and by structure I mean people, that can support both the technology and the other components of project management components of how you use it, then that's one of the biggest challenges. We see people just not plan for that very well. The other side of that coin is if you try to do too much with it, and even if you put the right kind of support structure in place, if there's just so much onerous that you put on people because you put such a heavyweight solution in, it becomes problematic. So hopefully that helps, Kevin, and we can talk in more detail. But that's why we try to take these three simple, we call them simple steps, but you know, really break it into 3 simple steps. So I think Patrick had Microsoft PPM the same as MS Project Online, Project Server. Correct. Microsoft PPM is the holistic term they use, and all of us partners use for the full suite of applications that they build as the platform, Patrick. So it's, you know, it's Project Server, Microsoft Project Desktop, Project Online, Project Professional, all those components. Anything else? It looks like we're almost out of time. Great questions, though. Really appreciate it. Okay. Well, if there's no more questions, I guess we will go ahead and wrap it up. You guys feel free to reach out to any of us. Let me go back to the last slide here. Advance it on all the contact information. Oops, went one slide too many.
Too far, too far.
Yeah, I just noticed that. Thanks. But now it's now it's not going back for me. I made it all this distance without. Well, end of slide. So click to exit. I'm trying. There it is. And go to end. There we go. All right. Well, if there are no more questions, thanks everybody for attending. You guys have a great day and a great Labor Day holiday weekend.